So, hey everyone, welcome. My name is Dorina. I'm a healing writing coach and a poet, a published poet. This month, basically, the topic has been surrounded about spirituality and all the other tools, and we've been discussing different things. So, today, what I'd like to do is talk to you with one of my coaches, and her name's Lorraine White, and we actually connected in 2016, which was a rough year for me because I just lost my dad, and I had felt that I really needed change in my life, and I felt like the things that I was doing were not really aligned. Back then, I was a lifestyle blogger, and somehow it wasn't fulfilling, and I felt like something was amiss. So somehow things happened, and I connected to Lorraine, who's a soul purpose entrepreneur coach, and she's also practices numerology, and she's able to guide you to work according to your soul purpose. And that's why I always say I'm a healing writing coach, because my soul purpose is to be a teacher, to help, and to just shine a light for people who are in need of some healing. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And we're doing it in this format because she's in the UK, and we could not find a way to record together. So this is going to be a bit different than most of my other videos. So thank you so much, Lorraine.
Thank you so much for having me, Dorina.
Yeah, it's lovely having
I'm so glad to be here. And thank you for that wonderful introduction as well.
You're welcome. Some people have this misconception of what spirituality is, and people have this thing of, if you're spiritual, you're not religious. And I feel like people kind of misconstrue things. So are you able to elaborate on that? Just maybe tell us a little bit about your background, because I have an idea, but everyone else does.
Yeah, okay. Spirituality for me is about that connection with source, with God, with the universe. It's about that relationship that you have with God. And for me, when I say that I'm spiritual, I mean that I have a very good connection, very close relationship with God. And that everything that I do in my life is guided by that connection with God. It's about being able to connect so that you are able to have purpose in your life, and to also know that your life has a purpose, you know. That's what spirituality is for me. So when I say that I'm spiritual, people may sometimes think, oh, she's religious. Religion for me is different to spirituality. Of course, as a religious person, you are spiritual, but religion for me presents a kind of notion of, it's like a framework. There is a framework in religion, okay, that you follow, whereas with spirituality it's more free, and you are not guided by a framework. You're guided by how you feel you should be, according to what God is communicating with you personally. Yeah. And it's always positive, and there's always, you know, if you're doing something wrong and immoral, then that's not spiritual. You know, that's yourself, that's your ego, you know. But that's how I see it.
Because some people, when they hear the word spiritual, then they get so flustered. And then some people have been talking about new age and this thing, and for me, new age, I don't like the way spirituality has become like an industry, and it's been repackaged, you know.
Yeah.
And because all these new age things that have come about are things that ancient cultures practiced back in the day, and then now they've somehow been repurposed, so then someone gave them a label. But then when you look at different nomadic cultures who still have their own religion or their way of life, then you notice that they have similarities, which in turn had made me think that actually we are the same. We just happen to live in different areas and corners of the world.
Yeah.
And then when we think about it, what someone had said, or the scientists had said back millions of years ago, that the earth or the continents were all together. So it's like we somehow separated ourselves, water separated us, but at the end of the day, like the principle of how people practiced and all the things that people did is the same. Is there some forms of your cultural background that you noticed that was different from you spending time with other people, like when you're growing up and like go to other people's homes and then you notice, okay, we're a little bit different?
I don't know if it was anything spiritual. I mean, we, in our culture, we have certain things that we do, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's anything to do with spirituality. It's just how we are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, things like sitting around the table together as a family and
Mm-hmm.
having dinner. And also in terms of how, like my family, they were quite, we are quite, we're servers, you know, so everyone comes first. Everyone that you come into our house, everyone comes first. You know, you'd give up your, you know, you'd give up whatever you have to make that person feel comfortable. That's how
Yeah.
I was brought up.
Yeah, that's like
So,
very African.
yes. And so I've undone a bit of that, if I'm honest, because I feel that it didn't actually impact me in the best way, because it made me kind of not know what self-love means, you know. And so I've had to learn the
Mm-hmm.
meaning of self-love, the meaning of self-worth, the
Mm-hmm.
meaning of being able to put yourself first and not feel guilty about that.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to undo a lot of that.
Okay.
Um, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's just where we were coming from. That's just how we were brought up. And it's not a bad thing, but it just didn't work for me
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I've become very sensitive. And so I think that it was easy to just allow people to give everything to somebody and then to perhaps allow someone to walk all over me. That's how it affected me. So I've had to undo that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like with my children, I try and show them the balance, to balance that out, as opposed to feel that you have to give of yourself and lose yourself in the process. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so when somebody comes to my house, no, I won't give up my bed. I won't. I will give you a lovely bed, but I'm not going to give up my bed, and you know, just things like that. Okay.
And that was
Yes.
a good conversation to have, because you know sometimes we don't think of how certain cultures and norms that
Yeah.
affect us, and the purpose for culture is just to have a compass. People struggle with is moving
Mm.
forward and
Yeah.
changing, and then when you change something, it kind of shakes the status quo. And I think
Yes.
it's also the programming of that generation back then, like how they had to, because imagine unlearning. I notice as well with certain people, with the way I decided to live my life, it hurts them because
Yeah.
that's what they would like to do, but they felt like they had obligations, so
Yes. Yes. I get it.
they never had a choice. And the
Yes.
fact that you, like nowadays people have a choice, it kind
Yeah.
of irks them, because for them that's not, to them that's not how the world works, and now it's shifting to be that where you just find your own joy and you're able to do what you can when you can, you know.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm about now. It is about really connecting to what makes me happy, and also what I'm here to do. You know, what God wants me to do. That's what it's about. And sometimes it's not easy, because you have to, you know, you may have certain relationships in your life that they are impacted because they're no longer aligned with who you are now.
Mm.
You know, they're more aligned with who you were. But when God wants you to do something and it's not, you know, in alignment with how your family want you to be, or your old friends want you to be, it's for you to make that decision, to choose, you know, to be guided by what you're feeling, by your connection, or to
Mm-hmm.
be guided by what other people want you to be and how they want you to be.
Because the most important thing I've noticed about spirituality and being
Mm.
firm in it is
Yeah.
placing boundaries. Because, like we talked about, you know, changing how
Mm.
you view life and everything. So, how have you, or how, what tips would you give someone who's struggling to set boundaries so that they can actually live in a healthy way that's with self-love? Like for example, that giving up your bed situation.
Yeah. That's a good question, and that's something I'm going to be totally honest. I'm still learning. Okay, I'm still learning about self-love. It's something that is evolving, and I suppose a lot of healers have this, because for a lot of us, we are here to serve other people, but we often forget about ourselves, and so there's always a journey. But in order to be a really powerful channel, you've got to have that self-love. So with regards to boundaries then, the way that you can know that you are doing the right thing is to, as you say, you have to use your heart in that connection as your compass. If something feels uncomfortable, you've got to go with that. Okay, if you feel like you're being pressured, or you feel like you're being pushed, or you feel like you're having to speak to someone in a certain way, or you feel like you can't speak your truth easily, okay, you've got to question, what is that about? You have to be true to how you feel, and if you need a bit of space, that's okay. Okay, if you need space, that's absolutely okay. It's to not beat yourself up, not to put yourself down, judge yourself. Be true to yourself. Okay, it's okay. None of us are perfect. We are all here, we're all learning, we're all evolving, but I feel like if you can just be true to yourself and just go with the flow, you might find that you need space, and then in a couple of weeks you're feeling better, and that's totally fine. Just honor yourself. Just honor yourself and your soul and your heart.
Yeah. And the one thing that I'd like to let everyone know is that when it comes to spirituality, it's not like everyone, like, people tend to feel that people are like enlightened and they have all the answers. But the thing is, we're learning, and sometimes we have a knowing of certain things and experiences, but we've not experienced them. But then that's why we're coming. And if someone tells you that they're super enlightened and they have all the answers, then that's a red flag.
That is a red flag for sure.
Yes, because the
everyone has stuff going on.
Yes. Yes, because the thing is, the master can become the teacher, because there's always something new and there's always something you can learn from the other person. And that's why when I meet people on their different spiritual paths, I do not judge people, because I know at some point I probably used to think like they did, so there's no point of judging. And just and that's why I always tell people it's a judgment-free zone, because whatever you're thinking and how you're feeling is valid for you at that moment. You might not see it from a different perspective, so just beware. If someone tells you that they have all the answers, that's a
red flag. And also, I want to say on that as well, is that, like, and this is for some healers, a lot of my clients who I work with, I find this is a very common theme. It's like they feel like they're not, because they are they're going through stuff, or they're working through stuff, or stuff comes up. It doesn't mean that you are not able to help somebody. Okay, you're always able to help someone. Someone can always benefit from what you have to teach them. Okay, a lot of the time we do go through stuff to help, not just for ourselves but for other people, number one. And also, as time goes on, our challenges reduce, because it's not just, or shall I say that again, how we perceive our challenges change. Okay, so they no longer become a big thing. It's like, okay, because you know how to deal with stuff.
Acknowledging that challenges are part of the process,
part of the journey. That's right. And that as time goes on, how we perceive it will change. What seems like a big thing to you like 10 years ago, or 9 years, let's say 9 years, because it's all in 9-year cycles. So what may seem like a big thing to you like 9 years ago is not the same. You're not going to have the same energy around that today. You're going to think, okay, I dealt with that, and I can, I can deal with that now. But they say that every level that you go to, there's another devil. I can't remember the exact quote. For each level, there's another devil, or something like that. And so that's it, because as we keep going, we're being forced to grow